What's going on, YouTubers, gamers and hobbyists? Welcome to another episode of Terrain Based. Today I'm going to be using... Right, you've all seen things like generators and that kind of thing, and towers built out of these things. I'm using a Pringles tube. You can use any sort of like potato chip tube or any kind of tube, basically. It doesn't have to be this exact width. I'm just using this there and thereabouts. So I'm using one of my figures as a reference point. I'm going to be making mud huts or tribal huts. Not necessarily mud huts, but tribal huts. So let's get to it. Alright, so we're going to take our Pringles tube in this instance. And the Pringles tube is ideal because they're nice and long and you can get at least two decent huts out of it. Probably get 3 or 4, but if you scale them down, but I'm just going to use 2 and I'm going to throw away the middle bit. So I'm measuring in 6 centimeters from either end. That's just a measurement I chose at random. Looked about the right size compared with a 28mm figure, because you can do 6, 7, 8, 5, whatever you want really. I'm going to do some smaller ones later on for some smaller scale stuff, but and possibly some taller ones, just to make it more of a village, uneven type thing. Now I'm going to take my cutter, which is a Games Workshop modelling cutter. I don't even know if you can still get them actually, but some sort of saw-like implement or serrated edge knife will do. Always take care when cutting, but you guys know that. There we are. I end up with 2, so I went either end and I just cut them. Right. Now, I opted for 2 square type doorways on the first 2 I've made, which are these. So I've done one, and I'll just show you how to do it on the other one, taking your modelling knife. Simply just score out by eye. You can draw it out if you want to, but just lightly score down each side of the door. Just keep going a few times, you do that and eventually it will cut through the cardboard. And then just do the same going across at the top to break it away. There you see. There, one doorway. There we are. As you can see, it's about right for a 28mm figure, or an average size base in height, so 25mm width base and average height. Right, simply stick them to my cardboard bases. As you can see, they're just bits of cardboard that I cut out from a box that my printer came in. I chose that because it was thick cardboard. I can't show any size bases of it. I'll do a tutorial on bases at another time. There you go, just showing you different sizes and shapes and so on. Okay, so here I'm just showing you how I made the cones for the roofs. Cereal box. And I'll be coming back to how I did them later. Covered in PVA glue on both sides to make them super duper strong. What I'm going to do next though is the the Dark Earth by Vallejo. It's like a muddy kind of texture, sort of like a polyfiller type-esque thing that you can smear around. It doesn't crack or anything, it's absolutely brilliant. It gets quite hard and it's ideal. I wouldn't be without it. I use it on all of my basing and weathering stuff. So we're going to make the body of this hut into mud, and I'm using a barbecue skewer. I just picked up a pack from Sainsbury's one time. It's the paddle-like end, but incidentally you could probably use to make oars. Is ideal for smearing this stuff around, and it's just like chocolate spread really. Except it doesn't taste the same. Looks lovely, tastes awful. Yes, I do know. There we go, we're just smearing it around on our sort of speed up mode. There we go. With these type of projects, the thing is you've got to wait for each stage to dry before moving on to the next. So there we've got our mud walls up. Alright, now going back to the cereal box lid. That's the bowl that contains the water I wash my brushes out in. So it's my water bowl. Something around about that size. I'm going to be exact. Just draw around it to get a circle for the top. I do 2 here because they fit nicely onto the cereal box. Because I want to do 2 at a time. So I want to end up with 4 huts eventually. I think that'll work out quite well for a nice mud hut village. And yeah, so I want to do that amongst other things. So yeah, once you've drawn out the circles, it's simply a case of cutting them out. I'll just ditch the excess cardboard because I've got so much lying around. I just need the clear space, as it were. Otherwise it tends to overrun your workspace. Right, so there we go. There I'm showing that I'm using my cutting mat to measure. It was 12 centimeters. So with my ruler, I'm just going to mark across 6 one way and then 6 the other, and then just draw a cross in the middle to get my center point on each one. So once you've done that, just cut a straight line up to the center point. It's as easy as that. So obviously I do that on both. I just fold them around. What you'll end up with is a flap. Just fold them around together, a cone shape, and you'll end up with a little flap underneath. And that's where my PVA glue, which is I'm doing now. I just pour some into a pot that I can use with brushes. Ideal for things such as projects like this. So there you go. Right, fold it around, bend it around a bit, get the cardboard used to the shape you want it to adhere to. Then when you've done that, just apply some PVA onto the underside or wherever, one of the sides, no matter which. Just hold it over, just hold it there for about 30 seconds to a minute, and you'll find it's glued nicely. And when you've done that on both of them, you'll need to apply PVA on both sides, like undiluted PVA glue. Just whack it over one side and then along the inside, and what you'll end up with is a really strong cone. You could probably get away with not putting PVA on it, but I like to make the cardboard as strong as I can. There you go, same deal. The flap that goes underneath, I'm just going to pop some more PVA on, and hey presto, and there we go. Alright, there we are. Nice and solid. There we go. Apply the outer layer of PVA, which makes it even tougher, both sides, then let it dry. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some super glue gel to stick it to the top of my hut. I find gel works best because it kind of holds the object in place just for those few seconds whilst it dries. Yeah, of course any super glue would probably do it, but I prefer the gel. It's just personal preference. Right, now I'm taking some teddy bear fur. You can buy this in any haberdashery. I just got this at my local market off one of the stalls. Pop your dome on top, or your cone, to get the majority of the coverage you'll need. Now what you want to do is brush the fur downwards. And you'll see on the back there'll be little grooves. Make sure they're going in the same direction, and then cut a shape so that your fur will go around the bottom. You can't just do it in one, because otherwise the fur will no longer be pointing down, and you need that fur pointing down. So just get your little strip, do a bit of a dry fit, and then PVA glue again, the modeler's best friend, and just slap it on the back and apply it. Okay, you don't need to dilute it, just use it straight from the pot or the bottle or whatever else you're using, and then just do that for cut out another strip if you can. You'll find that you'll be able to use up a lot of the pieces you've got there like that. So once that's on, you do another strip, and like I did there, I ended up with a bit of a space at the top. Just use your bits up as long as the fur's pointing downwards, or if you need to, just cut out another little bit from the piece you've bought. That's my advice. And then you end up with something like that. Now, wait for that to dry thoroughly before moving on to the next stage. Okay. Now you need to paint it. Now I found an old Citadel brown paint in my drawer, like one of the old colours that is no longer produced, although it probably is under a different name or something, but it's an old paint anyway, so I just used that up on one. But I thought to myself, well, I can't be using GW paints because they're just too expensive. So what I decided to do is use poster paint. Not on that one there, that's the GW one. But poster paint will work just as well. The only thing is you've got to mix up the poster paint. As you will see, I mixed mine up. Ideally I would have liked to have got it a bit lighter if I could. But yeah, so anything like that. These are just 99p poster paints. So as you can see, I've got my lid there, and I'm just going to mix up a few colours. So as you can see, it's quite dark. I thought I'd put some more white in there. Do a load, way more than you think you'll ever need, because when it comes to this sort of thing, you'll never get the same mixture again. In hindsight, I should have probably used more yellow than I did. I thought it was lighter, but when it dried quite darker than I was expecting. But it doesn't matter, because we're going to paint it now with it, and you just take an old brush, paint it on, painting downwards towards the direction that the fur is pointing, and that's all you do. That is it. Easy enough. And the paint is cheap enough that you can afford to just slap it on with plastic bouillier poster paint. The only difference I noticed with the poster paint on a project such as this is that it took a little bit longer to dry. So other than that, it was absolutely fine. Now, so that's the poster paint, and there's the GW one. As you can see, the GW one is a bit lighter, but other than that, when it dries, it's exactly the same. Right, quite a bit left over. Just showing you that my PVA glue is dry on the other cones now. I'll be using the same process on that, so when you see them in the future, this will be the method I used. Right, now the base, as you can see at the bottom, I've put a bit of flexible filler all around, which I will show you here, just to fill in the gaps of the cardboard. There it is, flexible filler that I got from, I think it was B&Q or Wix or something like that. Right, but what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do some dry brushing under Hive Ash. Well, it's more of an overbrush than a dry brush. I'm just going to slap that around the top, not being particularly careful. Well, apart from the not trying to brush too hard, just I'm just going to give it that straw look. If you do that all over, it really does start to look like a mud hut that's been made by some native in a tribe or something. And when I get a few of these together, I think the village is going to look quite good, quite spectacular. I mean, for me, scenery makes the game. It really does, and it's enjoyable too. And these huts are so cheap, materials that you would just throw away apart from the paint. The filler I've got anyway, doing DIY stuff around the house. So I really do think it looks the business. Once you start flocking the base, then it comes into its own. And I do that just to give an example of what it will look like, the finished product. So you just do it to how you want it to look. It's your project to do as much or as little as you want. You don't even have to go this far, but I will be doing a further tutorial to put extra detail on the hut for those that want to go that a little bit further. So I'm just going around all the areas, making sure that there's no blotchy bits or bits that stick out to the eye. Remember, it could be a rainforest, or it could be like baking hot sun. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. The ends, although they look frail and soft, they're really quite hard. The paint and PVA it's quite a solid piece of terrain. You could drop that easily, you wouldn't notice and it wouldn't do anything. Right, so now I'm gonna do a little bit with the base, flock it and paint the edge, just to show you what it will give you some better idea. There, I'm sorry the glue's still a bit wet in places, but you'll get, gives you a rough idea of what it looks like. There. So under Hive Ash is what I overbrushed it with, and then Steel Legion Drab is the paint colour I use for the edge of the base. Hexus Pale Sun is another dry brush you could use instead of. In this case I've done a little bit of a dry brush as well as the under Hive Ash, and there you are, there's the finished product. The second dry brushing went pretty much the same as the first, just not as much. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. One tribal mud hut. Like I say, I will be doing a tutorial for further detail and extra little bits and pieces that you can do to it to make it look even better. But personally, I think that looks pretty spectacular. So I just put some gravelly sand in the entranceway and a couple of different shades of flock around the edge. And that gives you your basic mud hut. And there you are, picture of it. See you on the next one, guys. Until then, remember, all brushes lead to war, and I'll see you on the next video.